In Mexico, candidate for the Let's Keep Making History coalition, Claudia Sheinbaum, won Sunday's general elections, thus becoming the country's first woman president. Palestine-Israeli overnight bombings on Gaza killed at least 24 people in the last hours. And in Sri Lanka, authorities reported at least 10 people killed and 6 others missing after heavy rainfall. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Mexico, the candidate for the Let's Keep Making History coalition, Claudia Sheinbaum, became the first woman to be elected president of the country. In this sense, the president of the National Electoral Institute, Guadalupe Tadei Zavala, detailed that data from the early count set Sheinbaum as the winner with around 60.7% of the votes. On the other hand, Tadei also assured that candidate Xochitl Gálvez is in the range of 28.6% and finally Jorge Álvarez Maínez up to 10.8%. In this regard, Tadei stressed that the counts have 95% confidence, while voter turnout is estimated at over 60%. The national leader of Morena, during his speech, assured that the victory of the candidate Claudia Sheinbaum represents a historic feat for the country by electing for the first time a woman as head of state.
We are facing an unprecedented feat in our country. The people of Mexico have taken a leap towards complementarity and equilibrium, shooting them out of a morally and politically tiny opposition. A classist, racist, and corrupt minority whose only project was to disarrange the country in order to keep it from themselves and hand it over to the transnational monsters. Today's sovereignty, independence, and democracy has also triumphed. The people have demonstrated that they cannot be fooled, neither with the hate campaigns nor with lies. The votes defeated the bots.
The Morena party has supporters inside and outside of Mexico. Many of them went to the votes in the Mexican consulates abroad in support of their candidate. Let's hear what people thought about it.
Can you tell me a little bit why do you think it is important to participate in these elections?
These elections are very important because everyone is tired of corruption, of so much corruption, of so much vandalism. People are tired of it. The first time they sent me a ballot to my house, I signed it. It is the first time I ask you to vote for a president, who is López Obrador. It's a pity that he's leaving, but his second one stays. He's the good one. That's why I'm interested in voting. I voted only once when I was in Mexico. The PRI party? No, I never voted for the PRI party.
What do you think the new president can do about the migrant community here in the United States?
I think they can do a lot, since they are more prepared. All of them are very well prepared. This new president speaks 2 languages, Spanish and English. She's well prepared. I am sure he will achieve the forced transformation. They better act accordingly or things will go bad for them. This is what I think.
Mexican citizens residing in the United States also went to the polls to vote and elect their new president. Let's listen to the statements of one of them.
My name is Adriana Perez and I am here to vote. It is my first time voting. I have not voted before, but I think it is something crucial because the vote, if it's really respected, I believe it makes a change for the nation. And the people needed this change to continue improving their situation. And that is what motivated me to vote today. I have no experience, I have not done it before, but I think it is important. And from what I've heard, people say that is something historic that is going to remain in history. I just think it's significant that people go out to vote.
As a person residing abroad, what do you expect from the next president of Mexico? What do you think the Mexican government can do for the migrant community here in the United States?
I think they should support it. There should be a lot of communication between Mexico and the United States to help migrants. In other words, there has to be a lot of support. As long as there is no connection from the government, there is no support for the citizens in any way. That is what I think.
Let's now go over the profile of Mexico's President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum. She is a 61-year-old politician and scientist. In 2018, she became the first woman elected head of government of Mexico City with more than 47% of the vote. Claudia Sheinbaum's government proposals include fair salaries for the education sector, the strengthening of the National Guard, and the creation of medical clinics in 154 municipalities of the capital city that do not have the service. Among her proposals, continuity of the lines of the fourth transformation, which proposes an honest model with better salaries and pensions without increasing taxes in the country. In other news, in Serbia, elections are being repeated in several cities amid allegations made by political parties of irregularities in the December 2023 voting. Through a report, a right-wing populist accused the Serbian Progressive Party of President Aleksandar Vučić of vote manipulation, with international election observers stating the elections were compromised by media bias, misuse of public resources, and pressure on public sector employees. All accusations firmly rejected by the ruling party. In response to the claims the elections were repeated on Sunday, regardless, local observers have said not much has changed despite the number of recommendations listed at the December voting. And in South Africa, after nearly all the ballots have been counted, the ruling African National Congress received a setback in Wednesday's elections after losing the absolute parliamentary majority for the first time in 30 years. According to the Independent Electoral Commission, while still at the top of the votes, the ANC obtained 40.2% of popular support, a stark difference compared to the 2019 elections. The outcome means the ruling party will need to form a coalition to govern or try to structure a minority government that would make it difficult to pass any legislation. In turn, the opposition parties have described the outcome as a transcendental advance in the country's democracy. The official results will be announced on Monday by the Electoral Commission.
Our people have spoken. Whether we like it or not, they have spoken. As the leaders of political parties, as all those who occupied or occupy positions of responsibility in society, we have heard the voices of our people, and we must respect their choices and their wishes. Over the past 30 years, we have strived together to build a country which everyone, black and white, man and woman, young and old, can call home.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, at least 22 people were killed in the last hours after overnight bombardments by the Israeli occupation forces in the Gaza Strip. Early Monday morning, 6 civilians were killed, including children and women, and 15 others were wounded after an Israeli strike targeted a house in the Bureij refugee camp in the center of the devastated Palestinian enclave. Further shelling in Han Yunis and Nusrat camp killed 16 more people, including at least 3 children. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupation army continues its ground offensive in Rafah, which has already forced the displacement of 1.7 million Palestinians in the past few days. Also in Palestine, Israeli occupation forces control about 88% of water sources in the occupied West Bank, depriving Palestinians the right to access clean water. The Colonization and War Resistance Commission denounced that unlike Palestinians, Israeli settlers do have access to water sources in the occupied West Bank. International studies have shown that Zionist settlers consume 9.5 times more water than Palestinians on average. Regarding the issue, Israeli authorities argue that these sources are environmental sites that must be preserved and protected. However, Palestinians denounce that the regime is trying to deprive them of the benefits of their land and warn that their actions are intended to expand its occupation of Palestinian territories. The number of victims in Palestine rose to more than 36,400 after the latest massacres perpetrated by the Israeli occupation forces. In this regard, local health authorities reported 60 people dead and 222 injured on Sunday. Meanwhile, ambulances and rescue teams are still unable to access the site to recover and assist the victims trapped on rubble. In addition, the blockades by Tel Aviv troops on some roads prevents the entry of humanitarian aid and supplies for the Gazan population. And also in Palestine, the Israeli occupation army maintained intense attacks on the entirety of the Gaza Strip as the ongoing genocide reached its 241 days. Palestinian civil defense teams searched for survivors in the rubble after an Israeli bombardment that occurred early Sunday morning on a residential building in the Al-Darash neighborhood in Gaza City. As a result, at least 3 people were killed, including a woman and an infant. Bombings were also reported in Rafah, Han Yunis, Deir al-Balah, Nusayrat, and several neighborhoods in Gaza. Since October, some 50,000 homes have been destroyed and drainage networks and roads were bulldozed in most municipalities, according to the emergency committees for the northern Gaza Strip. In this context, the World Health Organization approved a resolution condemning the indiscriminate Israeli attacks against medical and humanitarian facilities used for exclusively humanitarian purposes. The text was drafted by the group of Arab nations who denounced the violations of international law by the Tel Aviv regime. The amendment was approved with 102 votes in favor and 6 against, and it calls on the organization to investigate the effects of the conflict on the malnutrition of the Gazan people due to the intentional practice of leaving the civilian population without food. And in this context, in Israel, policemen repressed a protest that demanded the resignation of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and an agreement guaranteeing the return of citizens held in Gaza. Police officers on horseback charged against protesters in Tel Aviv, where 120,000 people demonstrated to demand that the government accept the ceasefire agreement announced Friday by U.S. President Joe Biden. According to local media, at least 7 people were arrested during the incident. The protests, which were replicated in several cities, also demanded the resignation of the ultra-right-wing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the holding of early elections. In other news, the President of Chile, Gabriel Boric, announced his country's adhesion to the lawsuit filed by South Africa against Israel before the International Court of Justice. On Saturday, the Chilean head of state gave his 3rd annual public address before the National Congress in the city of Valparaiso. During the speech, Boric affirmed that his government condemns criminal violence, terrorism, genocide, and aggression in all corners of the world. In this way, Chile joins Nicaragua, Colombia, Turkey, Egypt, Mexico, and Libya, which also requested to be part of the case, in which Tel Aviv is accused of violating its obligations under the Genocide Convention.
I have decided that Chile will be part of and will support the case that South Africa filed against Israel before the International Court of Justice of The Hague within the scope of the UN Convention on Genocide. I have instructed the teams of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to prepare a brief with our arguments on this issue.
We now have a short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. For a break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Sri Lanka, heavy rainfall caused the death of at least 10 people and the disappearance of 6 others in the island nation. According to statements from the Disaster Management Center, in addition to the death, approximately 30,000 people have been affected by rains and floods during this weekend. The entity also indicated that the rescue teams have been deployed throughout the region and have moved at least 5,000 people to 52 temporary shelters. Authorities also indicated that although the monsoon rains will continue for months, their intensity is expected to reduce. As of Monday and on Tuesday, schools that were forced to close due to bad weather could reopen. In Brazil, more than 2,300,000 people affected by the rains are at risk of contamination due to the outbreak of diseases in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. The Brazilian Ministry of Health alerted that low river levels and flooding in urban areas have caused the spread of diseases such as leptospirosis, condition transmitted by water contaminated with rodent urine. Authorities also informed that at least 8 people have died from leptospirosis since May 1st, and another 12 deaths are being investigated by the authorities. Meanwhile, some 2,500 people are being evaluated for allegedly having contracted the disease. The Russian armed forces reported on the liberation of the village of Umanskoye in the locality of Donetsk as part of the special military operation to denazify Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that the armed troops managed to intercept 2 airplanes of the Ukrainian Air Force. The officials informed that the Russian forces shot down 50 unmanned aerial vehicles, 23 U.S.-made shells, 2 tactical missiles, 3 French-made aerial bombs, and 1 Neptune anti-ship missile. Furthermore, they reported on finding a radar station aimed at detecting the tracking of Ukrainian P-18 aerial targets, as well as groups of enemy manpower and military hardware in close to 103 areas. In Budapest, Hungary, demonstrators and government authorities held a peace march aimed at stopping the European Union from entering into war with Russia. In this context, the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, attached importance to preventing Europe from rushing into a war which could potentially destroy the continent. The Prime Minister also referred to the attack on the life of Slovakian counterpart Robert Fico and assured that the attempt occurred because Fico is on the side of peace. Orban, who is focusing his June 9th elections campaign on stepping back from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, has refused to supply weapons to Ukraine and threatened to derail the European Union's financial aid to Kiev and block sanctions against Moscow.
We have the largest electoral army. No one has ever been able to gather so many people for peace, as the only purpose of the electoral army of Hungarians is to keep peace. We are the largest Peace Corps in Europe. We are the largest peacekeeping force in Europe.
In other news, in India, the Isna Shadi Youth Foundation organized a special program in Mumbai's Kesar Bagh Hall to remember and honor Imam Khomeini on the anniversary of his passing. Imam Khomeini was prominent leader of the Islamic world, and every year people gather worldwide to commemorate his legacy and reflect on his significant contributions to society. The event brought together religious scholars who deliver powerful speeches that shed light on Imam Khomeini's enduring ideals and the impact he had on the lives of people from all walks of life. A Chinese spacecraft landed on the far side of the moon on Sunday to collect soil and rock samples that could provide insight into the less explored area. In this sense, China's National Space Administration indicated this mission is the 6th in the Chang'e Moon Exploration Program, named after a Chinese moon goddess. The trip is the second one designed to bring back samples following the Chang'e 5, which did so from the near side in 2020. The successful landing elevated China's space power status in global race to the moon, in which several countries, including the United States, hope to exploit lunar minerals. And fans reacted to the final of the Championships League, where Spanish league team Real Madrid defeated the German club Borussia Dortmund and won their 15th Champions League title.
Disappointed because I think Dortmund played better than Madrid in the first half. They created better chances, but that's how Madrid works and that's how Madrid plays. If you don't kill them while you have the chance, you will be the one who gets killed.
Amazing. This is the first time I got to see Madrid live in stadium, and unimaginable experience. I'm over the moon. I was crying inside the stadium. I'm like beyond thrilled. I can't even imagine it. Can't even describe it in words, honestly. It's amazing.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.